Well, hello, Men's Health Magazine. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. We are back with our male mental health series, Friday sessions, and we have got a wonderful guest, a very, very handsome, famous actor you all are going to recognize from 911. You know him from Badlands. Just a wonderful, wonderful actor, great advocate for the LGBT Q plus community. So Oliver Stark, we've got him, I hear.
Hello. Am I in? I think I'm in. Hello. Can you hear me? Am I in? I think I'm in. It doesn't look like we can hear me. Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me? It doesn't look like we can hear me. No, you can't hear me?
How's that even possible?
Hello, hello, hello. Nothing?
Now I'm hearing you. I'm hearing something here.
Anything. Now I can't hear you. Oh, wait. I heard you for a second. All right. There you are. Technology, eh? Hell of a thing.
There we go. Now I'm hearing you. Now you're back.
Can you hear me?
Hi there.
Now you've lost me again.
No.
Okay, you've got me. All right, we're good. We're good.
Now I've got you again. We're back. We're totally live. There we go.
I am
Well, Oliver, welcome so
at
much
the
to
end of
Friday
a
Sessions.
very
I
long
think we're
road
catching
trip.
you roadside here. Where are you, sir?
I've been driving across the country for a few weeks. So over the last 2 days, I've been driving back west from Nashville, Tennessee, and I just got back to, well, I'm almost back home, just north of Los Angeles. So yeah, it's been a long few days driving.
Well,
Yeah,
it's great to get you.
something
Is
like
this
that.
how
Yeah,
you
it
perfect your American
anywhere you
accent?
go, it all
There's a lot
soaks
of
in a
buzz
little bit.
online about,
So
and is this
maybe.
secret? It's secret road trips to the Midwest.
Mm.
Well, it's just an absolute treat to have you on the show. So we're here to talk a little bit about mental health, and we've got you at the end of a road trip, which is always a good time to peer into the psyche of a
Yeah.
man. And I'm wondering, can you share a little bit about your
It's
perspective
funny actually
on male
when
mental health these days?
you guys first reached out to me about doing this. By the way, if you can hear, so that I have a dog in the back seat and one over here. So if you hear some barking or anything at any point, you know why. Um, okay, good. Yeah, when you guys first reached out about this, and I said yes, I'd love to do it, and then I had a little bit of a
Good. We like
crisis
dogs.
of I don't know what I want to like. I don't know what to say. But it's funny because over the last couple of weeks, and as I say, I've been driving up and down the country or across the country, more to the point. It has reminded me that you talk about men's mental health. I think a thing that was very present for me when I was younger was this idea of men are quite or should be quite solitary, and you know I know that the saying is no man is an island, but actually I think that often what we think when we're younger is that manliness is about being an island. And I tell you, over the last couple of weeks driving up and down and all around and meeting a bunch of people, it has really reminded me of the importance and how healthy it can be to be part of a community and meet new people and open up and be vulnerable with new people. And I think that's something that oftentimes maybe not exclusively for men, but is an issue. I think it's often easier to. I know I've certainly experienced this when I'm not doing well. I tend to withdraw from the world and actually kind of reintegrate integrating yourself into your community, I think is something that I've just rediscovered over these last weeks of how important that can be.
It can be a very isolating experience. I like what you said. You know, that's kind of to be a man is to be an island, to not have needs. And
Right.
I like that we're catching you in your truck cab, where one, we see that's not true in the history of men, that we always have dogs with us, right? That we don't like being. Can you tell a little bit about how you form that community that supports you? Because I think a lot of men struggle with that. We don't. We
Yeah.
got some friends, we got
I
acquaintances, we got
mean, in all honesty,
colleagues,
it's
but
something that
we don't
I've struggled
sometimes
with a
do
lot as
such a
well.
great job
Um,
at going
I
deep.
think particularly in my 20s, I knew a lot of people, but I didn't have a lot of friends and kind of, as you say, acquaintances or colleagues. But I think one, I'm trying now as I, move towards my mid 30s to kind of nurture these friendships more. And I think taking the initiative is certainly one way. And being the first one to reach out, and I think being okay with vulnerability and being able to ask people, are they okay? And if that question comes back in your direction, taking the time to check in with each other. And I mean, it is difficult, right? Because where do you meet people as an adult? You know, if you're not meeting them at work, if you're in a relationship, so you're not necessarily out at bars by yourself or whatever it is. Where as an adult do you make new friends? I tell you, one of the ways that I've over the last few weeks met a lot of people is through the dogs. Not that everybody should suddenly get a dog, but it is, especially like this guy's a really big guy, so people love to come up and ask questions about him. And I met really great people, and then I think there's that putting yourself out there where uh like I met these people in Nashville, and I was like, "Do you guys want to go for dinner?" Which I would never have done before. And they could have said no, and you don't even live here. Like, why would we spend the time? Um, but it was lovely,
Oh,
and it was just such a nice experience that I wouldn't have had if I didn't put myself out there a little bit and risk some embarrassment or awkwardness or whatever. But it's like in the grand scheme of things, this is a thing I try and live by a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, who cares? There are so many minor things that we put such weight onto, and it's like they're just passing moments, and that's okay. Mm.
yeah, and I love that you trust your intuition more than you trust your fear in that moment, which I think is something that's very
Yeah.
hard for men. Just even this idea of intuition, right? It feels like very woo-woo, but just you kind of had a notion that you had a great connection going with these folks, and like why not keep the conversation going? And you were right. Everybody was feeling it. I think it's such a great
Mm.
example for us. And yeah, the dogs are and animals. I mean, I just actually yesterday recommended to a patient, but like, hey, you like dogs? You want a dog? Like, you need to get out of the apartment. You need to connect with people. You need some, just that, wonderful companionship and attention we get from our animal companions. So it's really that is part of mental health. Eh, Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you. Acting is not sometimes the most consistent job and pretty darn hard on the mental health. I was thinking you're going to say where you meet people. It's like
Yeah.
acting classes, right? Isn't that where you guys all meet?
My
But
career has been
can you tell us
through,
how you've learned to manage your mental health as
as
an
I think
actor?
anybody in not even just any creative space, but any freelance space, up and down. Um, and certainly my earlier years, I really struggled mentally, especially when I had a partner at the time and she was much more successful than I was, right? And actually, she wasn't even that successful, but she was having more opportunities possibly come her way. For example, she would have way more auditions than me, right? And as a young man in my kind of late teens, early 20s, I really struggled with that because not because I wasn't happy for her, but because it like shined a light on my lack of success. Um, and that took a lot of growing and understanding and being able to pull myself out of the situation to just be happy for somebody that was a loved one. I would say these days, I've been very lucky to work consistently on the show 911 for the past coming into 8 seasons now. So I think one of the biggest challenges of that has been, ironically, in this kind of space, right, and social media and the access that is presented to an audience, to myself through social media. That's kind of been the biggest thing that I've had to learn to juggle and how to kind of make sense of, because thankfully it's a show that has become very successful, but that also means big platform, lot of eyes, which in itself comes with a pressure, and you read sometimes not nice things about yourself, and how do you deal with that? So that's, I think, been the biggest challenge in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you must work so hard and hope for success at the level that you've had, and then to also see that comes with some challenges itself. You also, your character on 911 is special in the sense of being, in some ways, I think there's a new generation of media where the media is out, open. You play a bisexual character. I know that community has really, gotten more of a voice certainly over the last decade after in some ways being quite discriminated against.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? What it's like
I mean, it's a
representing
relatively new
a
thing for
character
the
and in some ways
character,
a piece
so
of a
so
movement that's really
it was
important
really
right now.
exciting for me to you know get to take on this mantle of being part of representation, for the kind of queer community, and it's been an honor, really, and the reaction to it has truly blown me away. You know, it feels almost like I wasn't really worried about it going into it, right? And as people will tell me, like, which I think is silly, but you were brave to do this or whatever with this character, and I didn't really have that fear. Like, I was really proud to get to be a part of telling this story, because I think it's representative of the world that we live in, um, and to get to play this character who is, all right, so if we go back, I don't know, 20 years ago, was like, quote unquote, very macho, right? He's a hero. He runs into the fire. He does all these things. And so, it's not necessarily revolutionary to be showing this now, that you can do that, and and that doesn't isn't affected by your sexuality. But I do think to be doing it on a network TV show and to take an established character and do it was, a big step for the show. But yeah, no, the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, and I've loved getting thus far to tell the story, and we have another season ahead, so to continue telling that story and hopefully be able to provide some really positive, not just diversity, but representation for that community.
A lot of men don't feel any. Thanks for all that, by the way. A lot of it don't feel permission or even a kind of notion of maybe exploring their sexuality. And I'm wondering if, as you're an advocate for the queer community, whether you have thoughts or ideas for men who are
That's a
thinking about
big
that or have
question.
questions about that or kind of maybe struggling with that to make it a bit
Yeah, right.
easier for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess my hope would be,
Psychiatrist, sorry.
you know, everything of who we are and the decisions we made is obviously, to some extent, probably a large extent, influenced by external factors, right? Things that we see on the television, movies that we go and see. So I hope that the kind of stories that we're able to tell on 911 and other shows uh, end up maybe giving people confidence or permission to explore whatever they want to explore. Um, I guess I would kind of lean into what I said earlier, and I don't mean this in any kind of minimizing way, but in the grand scheme of things, who cares, right? It's like that's what I've always tried to tell myself of, is that what's this person going to think of me with regards to whatever it is. And it's like we're all just people trying to work our way through the world. Nobody really knows. We're all just wandering around. So make the decisions that you want to make, explore the things that you want to explore, because it doesn't really matter in the end. So why not go after the things that may end up making you happy? Mm.
Yeah, and I love in this way you're also suggesting what does really matter is you and your individual journey. And one of our guests several months ago, Vic Blends, the barber, celebrity barber, came in, and he this powerful moment he ended with saying, a lot of ways, right what you're saying, this notion of your path is
I mean,
yours
it's the
alone.
only
If we're
thing we
spending a lot of
have
time
control
listening to the
over, right?
noise, it's really missing the point.
To a large
And
extent
so
anyway,
I
is
really appreciate that
our own
encouragement.
decisions, our own character. So beyond that is perhaps a waste of energy.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a wonderful mantra for us all to be taking forward into this. Will you tell us a little bit about your kind of maybe you're on a road trip right now, but when you're not road tripping,
Um,
your kind of mental
I like to
fitness
get outside.
routine? Are there things that really like keep
Which
you going,
again,
keep you
dogs great for
centered,
that.
like
But even
non-negotiables?
before the dogs or without the dogs, I like to spend time outside, preferably, in a environment that contains some nice nature. Although I guess everything to some is nature, because I think it's grounding, I guess would be a word, and it just reminds me of kind of everything we've just said, but my place in the world, and I'm lucky enough to live on a little bit of land, just shy of an acre. And so, for example, I can't remember where I first read this, but I it was something to do with like once you buy a house or once you buy a property or land, it doesn't mean that you own it. It means that you've taken up the mantle of caretaking for that land, right? So uh, if I can tend to my land and keep it in good shape and condition so that it helps the environment around me thrive. So that's I guess one of the things, like working on the environment around me is something that really kind of centers me and helps me feel a little bit better about things in my life. I would say curating my experience with the internet is something that is very important to my mental health. Um, well, I mean, so I came off. Uh, Instagram is not so bad for me. Um,
What are your
I
tips? How do you do that?
yeah, what yeah. I came off
Okay.
X
Thanks
some
for
years
that. Me
ago.
either. Yeah.
Certainly as Oliver Stark. But then I had like another account which I would mostly look at um, like sports stuff and everything. But the way that I'm talking about curating my life, obviously these social media apps curate and through their algorithms what they want you to see. So it's like unavoidable to see stuff about, you click on something about yourself once, um, and then it's like every time I check it, I would read something that didn't make me feel good about myself. So part of my experience now is that I just don't look, which I know is maybe an extreme thing, and obviously the any civilian, any layperson isn't going to see something nasty about themselves every day. So I'm not saying nobody should be on social media, obviously, but I do think muting accounts that don't make you feel good about yourself or that show you things that are upsetting to you. I'm not that we should always avoid the upsetting things, but upsetting for the wrong reasons. So yeah, I think being deliberate in the content that we consume. Uh, so for me that meant completely pulling away from it, but I don't think that would be everybody's step. But yeah,
Mm.
I think making intentional choices about what it is that we are privy to.
Those are great, wonderful pieces, and I really appreciate both the nature and the notion of grounding, a big piece of mental
Mm,
fitness, and a part that I think gets neglected. And I love the way that you framed it, though. It's not just about I'm out here in Wyoming in the big nature. It's not just about the big woods and the anytime we're driving through, come on by, and the mountains and all that. It can be in your little acre. I really experience this. I have a little tiny lot, but the amount of pleasure of planting stuff, replacing grass with trees and flowers, tending to it, your own little place, whether it's a little flower box or whether it's a full yard or a farm. It's just such a great point for all of us, Oliver, that there's
yeah, and
something
we are
in nature
nature.
for all of us, even in the small, as
Like
you
we
said,
we
as
are.
you're saying,
I
nature's
think that's
everywhere. We all have access
a
to it. And I
disconnect as
just
well
think
of
it's
like
such a,
we are not looking at nature.
yeah,
We are nature,
yeah,
and we are part of the makeup of the nature around us. So by taking care of it, we're taking care of ourselves, and by taking care of
yeah.
ourselves, we're taking care of it. Mm,
Yeah, I love that. And also that we often so often are searching for a sense of belonging. I really like that you invoke that, like, in nature, we should sense that or look for that or have an appreciation that, like, we do belong right there. We are that. I hadn't really framed it that way before. That's a wonderful. And then this idea of not just letting the algorithm curate our social media, that part of what we are consuming our diet these days isn't just the fruits and vegetables we need to eat more of, but is this kind of images, content, the stuff that's just put in front of us. And if we don't take charge and
mm.
really block out some of what we're not liking,
Yeah,
not to the
I
extent
think
to
it,
ignore the problems in the world
maybe
you
a
said,
cliche,
but
but it's the
we're
whole
not taking care of ourselves.
you
We're not
can't
really
pour
like
from an empty
curating our
cup.
diet the way that we need to.
You have to be able to help people from a place of you have to be in a somewhat good place yourself to be able to help others. So if you just consume doom and gloom and you bring yourself down with that, then are you in a position to then amplify or help anybody else?
Oliver, I hope after this you're not going to be nervous about any mental health conversations because you're a treat to talk with about it and you clearly think about it and it's part of your life. In all seriousness, it's really enjoyable for me as a
Okay.
old psychiatrist to speak with you and the hopefulness that you provide. I was just interviewed. Ruth Whitman wrote this book, Boy Mom, which is just it's a great male mental health book. But she was talking about solutions, and the reason I bring up Ruth is a solution that really struck me is the one that you demonstrate. That we need more stories about men
Mm,
doing more things that are male,
mhm,
but aren't this traditional notion, aren't the island, right? Are the super macho bisexual hero, right? That exists in all of his glory in the world, and now because of you, on a lot of screens around the world. And so it's really a treat for me to go from hearing about the solution and then living it with you for a few minutes. And so thank you so much for all you're doing and all you've shared with us about your mental health and your
thank you.
openness and then what you're
Thank you.
representing. It's really it's a treat to be with you. Can you share kind of is your first of all safe driving the rest of your road trip? Puppies, you dogs take care of him. Can you share this kind of final thought headed into the weekend? Something maybe we can all use as a
So
bit of a
as
mantra
I head
direction
home,
for our
one
mental
thing
fitness
I'm
as we're
really
thinking about. You've given us some great ones, but you got another
planning
one for us?
to find something, I guess, exciting in your life, right? So for a new interest of mine is art history.
Mm. Well, everybody, it looks like that was our time with Oliver Stark. What an absolute treat to be with Oliver, a buck from the show 911. We got him briefly on his road trip back home. I'm going to save this live so you can share it. What an absolute treat. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Sean, wow, thank you, my friend at Men's Health, for getting such a wonderful guest. Everybody, please take this, share it liberally with your friends, use it to power your mental fitness and mental health this weekend. Greg Scott Brown, our colleague, great psychiatrist,